before he now moved to Anchor University. So you can see that Landmark University Vice Chancellor, that is a former, and the Vice Chancellor of Anchor is going to start, and Landmark University Vice Chancellor is heading it up in the evening. So it's Landmark University Day by extension. And that's why I have to quickly do a little bit of exercise. You can see me. I jog to the office. I'm just excited, sir. And I want to welcome all participants. This is not just for fun. We are going to drive this nation. We are going to transform Nigeria digitally. We are going to transform Nigeria digitally. So without wasting time, I want to welcome everybody. I'm glad to be here. Come down with us. We are ready to do you good. Thank you and God bless. Can you hear me, sir?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
So we still have the privilege of introducing ourselves as participants, so that.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Good, good. I'm very grateful, Professor Olayanju.
Thank you, sir.
I hope you can hear me. Still have the privilege of.
Yes, I can see have you.
Participants. I hope we are not hearing double voices.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I think it's an echo.
Good, good. I'm very grateful, Professor. Sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, good.
Thank you, sir.
Good. So we are still waiting for some of our participants. So let's just use this time to also introduce ourselves. So if you are there, it is a great privilege having you here, and we want you to also introduce yourself. You can just unmute and introduce yourself.
I am Kayode Shonibare from Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta.
Good. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
To the Vice Chancellor of Landmark University, so that we know.
Thank you so much.
I am Pastor Femi Phillips from Akure. Happy to be here.
Very much. Thank you very much.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Thank you, sir. We are enjoying the program. This is Akapoti Sunday.
Thank you very much.
The personal assistant to the Vice Chancellor, Landmark University, Umaran, Kwara State.
Thank you very much.
We are glad to be here, sir. Thank you so much for that impactful program. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, sir. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
My name is Ojo Oluwanifemi Blessing, a student of Landmark University.
Good.
It's a privilege to be here. Yes, thank you, sir. Okay.
Good day, everyone.
You are welcome.
Okay.
As you can see, we are live on YouTube.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, my name is Sanusi Okishola from Anchor University, Lagos.
You're welcome, sir.
Please, once you introduce yourself, you can mute your phone.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Emmanuel Praise from Futa Akure. I'm a student of Futa Akure. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning. We can hear you. Go ahead.
Good morning. Good morning. Welcome, Professor Bayo Okunade. Thank you so much. Very, very wonderful having you this early morning. And thanks for yesterday, Prof. We are behind schedule. Just want to give 2 minutes to start. Just 5 more minutes so that we can have some other people joining us. Is that okay?
That's okay, sir.
Good. So we still want you to introduce yourself. Once you join us,
Hello, good morning. I'm Emmanuel Praise from Federal University of Technology, Akure.
You are welcome.
as I said earlier on, we are live on YouTube. So we have people watching us live.
Hello, good morning. I'm Felix Oke from Anchor University, Lagos.
Mr. Okay, you are welcome. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. I am Lawal Emmanuel from Anchor University.
Well, good morning.
Good
I hope you are
morning.
going to be seated and set for this. Okay. You're welcome, man. You can unmute. Thank you.
Good morning, sir. My name is Oluwafemi Fayomi from Landmark University, Umaro.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. Please just go ahead. We're listening. Just go ahead, please.
I am Femi Phillips from Akure, Chartered Institute of Finance and Control, fellow.
Good morning, sir. You're very much welcome.
Hello, good morning, sir.
Hello, good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. Please just go ahead, please. Thank you.
My name is Engineer Professor Ibekunle Francis.
Bro,
Can
good
you hear
morning,
me?
sir. Yeah,
You're welcome.
You are very much welcome, sir. Yes.
From Landmark University.
You're welcome, sir.
You are all welcome. We'll start in the next 10 minutes, the next 5 minutes rather, so that we can have at least additional 8 people joining us. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Good.
Okay, perfect.
Good. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You can still introduce yourself. You are there. You are joining us, and we want to hear, we want to see your face, we want to know you. We already have our guest speaker in the room. We have Professor Bayo Okwade in the room. We have our moderator. Our moderator is already here. I will introduce him shortly. And I have Dr. Tejo. So thank you very much, sir, for joining us. You can show your face, introduce yourself. Dr. Michael Tejo. So thanks for joining us. So you can still introduce yourself. Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, sir.
Good.
We can hear you. Go ahead, sir.
Good.
We can hear you, sir.
So we'll start in the next 2 minutes or thereabouts.
Okay, sir.
If you have any information to pass across, you can check the chats. You can chat. So once again, I welcome you. It is a great honor having you here, and it is a privilege for me to introduce to you Soji Adeniyi, who is the moderator of this event. He is the founder of Prime Trainer Africa, and he was the chairman of United Nations Joint Staff Pension Fund. He is a person that I like introducing as my mentor, because he has always been there for me, right from, I don't know, more than 30 years ago. So I have the singular honor to introduce our moderator of this summit to you. He will definitely introduce our speaker. So join me as I welcome Soji Adeniyi, the moderator of Great Leaders, Great Nation Summit. Thank you very much, sir. Over to you, sir.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I believe it's a beautiful Saturday morning from wherever you're joining us from today. It's been wonderful. The summit has really, really enriched lives. I've gotten a lot of comments and feedback on social media on several of my handles, describing how impactful this has been. And I know that some of you have also expressed the same opinion today. Consistently, we've had a lot more people coming in to just show appreciation for the to the convener and for the conveyance of this particular summit at a time like this. We know that Saturday mornings are always kind of a lazy start for most people, so I wasn't surprised that we didn't have so many people joining early on Saturday mornings. And this particular Saturday morning from several parts of the country, I understand it's been raining. And of course, that makes, a lot more opportunity for people to sleep and oversleep, having worked all week. So it's not surprising. I'm confident that most of them will quickly remember and join us. And some might just want to watch live on YouTube without joining the Zoom. So depending on where you're watching us from, congratulations on making the decision to be part of what is going on here. We've had very, very interesting sessions from the opening session. The opening session opening remark was done by none other person than His Imperial Majesty, the Oni of Ile-Ife, one and only Oba Enitan Nwose Ogbagba II, who was more than magnanimous in staying through the entire session on the first day. And he supported us in no small way by ensuring that we benefited from his rich knowledge of the concept of the Nigerian and the African system of education. He reminded us that education was not just a Western thing that came in. We were already educated because our forefathers were followers of the traditional means of learning, and that sometimes some of their followers had to learn as many as 800 verses of the Ifa oracle, by heart, and they have to recite this periodically just to show that they have, knowledge, and that we should not confuse Western education for the only means of education. We should understand that the Africa of the future might be more technically minded, might be more hands-on, might be more, dependent on the ability of people to deliver results than to deliver or show certificates. So I think it's been really, really wonderful. We then went on to listen to our first presenter, Professor Peter Okebukola, the former Executive Secretary of the National Universities Commission, who again took us through, the whole process of what the difference between the new normal and the conventional systems. And he also threw the challenges to the policymakers on what they need to do in order to ensure that, we all learn how to cope with the new normal. Then we went on clearly to begin to look at other presentations from, the bridging the gap between the university education, the primary, secondary, and university education, where the Vice Chancellor of the University of Ibadan took us to the historical landmark of how the first university came to be in Africa and how the University of Ibadan has remained a pioneer institution till date, and the effort that has been made on, blending or mixing both virtual learning and face-to-face learning. And he recommended clearly that we must ensure that education is not just what the teacher teaches, it's also when students, form long life partnerships in the years ahead. Having said this, he went on to recommend that no matter what happened, physical participation in classrooms should not be substituted for the ease of online learning. And yesterday, we had a very wonderful presentation all the way from the United Kingdom when Professor Bayo Made took us through the real rudiment of what it means to have blended learning. He said blended learning does not just happen by accident, it has to be intentionally, done, that the percentage of offline and online needs to follow specific models. And he introduced us to various models that could easily be adopted by anyone wanting to practice blended learning. He said you could have the flexible model, you could have the rotational model. He introduced us to the a la carte model and the virtual system of learning. And he explained to us the various percentages and the mixes that could be used in the virtual, in the blended learning environment. He again warned us that because of the challenges of digital access, poor digital asset penetration in some of our remote locations, poor infrastructure and all of this, that we're going to initially face some challenges because we were not prepared for this. This happened on us rather than, a pragmatic system that took us in the path of growth, but that we are being very comfortable with our conventional system. People did not believe that education can actually happen except you go into the four walls of a university before now, higher education in particular. But that the world is coming to a point now where whether you do distance learning, online learning, you are going to go through basically the same thing the person who is in the physical classroom will go through. And that thankfully, there are some institutions now that are removing the tag of distance learning and online learning from their certificates, because basically anyone who has gone through school, whether physically facing the lecturer or the teacher or online engaged with the teacher in all the course contents, is going through the same system. So basically the certificates are supposed to be unbiased and employers are supposed to be unbiased, using the privilege of teaching and using technology. He admonished us to consider online or physical classroom setting as vehicles for delivering education rather than education itself. And that was really powerful yesterday as people asked a lot of questions on interaction and the blend on how to do online practicals and online laboratory experiments and the rest of it. So I think we learned quite a lot, and I'm confident that today will not be different. Today, we're going to be looking at factors that are much more relevant to the time that we are in. And we will be having our own Professor Afolayan Joseph, the Vice Chancellor of Anchor University, Lagos, Nigeria, who is going to take us through the topic, delicate balance of health and livelihood during and after COVID-19. I would want to please appeal to every one of us. If you are not speaking, please always ensure that your device is muted. Always ensure that your device is muted so that we can all I apologize. I think I was muted unconsciously. So I was saying that we should be ready. We should know.
You can unmute yourself, sir.
I have already done that. Yeah. Thank you. I was saying that Professor Afolayan is more than ready today, and I know that in the next 45 minutes to 1 hour, we are definitely going to have the very best of both worlds: the experience from the university environment and the virtual environment that we have all been engaged in the last couple of months. Please join me as I welcome our own Vice Chancellor of Anchor University, Professor Afolayan. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you very much.
Meanwhile, we have been joined by several people, including Dr. Ayoshi Soya, Oluwafunso Moroti from Yola, Adamawa State, Tokumbo Ayola. We are privileged to have Omotayo Oluwaseun from Kano State. We have so many people that have joined today from various parts of the country. Yesterday, we had people from South Africa and from the United Kingdom and the US joining us. We are still looking forward to having so many people join us today. Professor Afolayan Joseph, please.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Lionju. I know you are still out there. Thank you, my prof. I really appreciate you, sir. Thank you.
Prof can unmute himself. Good.
I'm on.
Good.
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Okay, you are ready for my presentation, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Mr. Sanusi is hearing from his own end.
Share from him.
Thank you very much. I welcome all the listeners this morning. It's a great privilege to make my presentation. I'll be presenting to the audience through PowerPoint. Yes, that was done.
Can I share from my own end here?
I have it here.
It's already there. Let's go to slideshow, sir. Great.
Thank you very much. As already been introduced, I'll be speaking to us on education in Nigeria, delicate balance of health and livelihood during and after COVID-19. We started the year with a form of joy, expectations, plans, and programs. Until suddenly, at the beginning of the year, the issue of COVID-19 happened to bring disruptions and worries and anxieties globally. For my presentation this morning, I'll be talking on the following. I'll be giving us updates on COVID-19 and the new global reality. I'll talk on understanding the interdependence of education, health, and livelihood. Then unified fight against the pandemic, and of course, the uncertainties of post-COVID-19 invasion. Then, majorly, we look at unique approaches to striking the balance. And within the time frame, I will be concluding with unfailing reassurance. Since the virus escaped from Wuhan in China, it is without a doubt that the spread has beaten all our expectations worldwide. The data we have from day to day shows that we have a horrible challenge globally. We can see the growth of the rampaging impacts of the coronavirus as depicted on that chart. Since it started, we have not recorded a downward trend, but rather it has been on the increase. As of July 1st, 2020, we have the chart of the totally confirmed death globally. And this is really very, very alarming. Of course, too, by special divine intervention of God, we also have people who have been cured and discharged from various isolation centers globally. Now, our focus and concern is the happenings in Africa. The data we have just a few days ago shows that we have about 404,796 cases currently in Africa, and about 10,147 death cases. And of course, we have 192,600 recoveries. Looking at the map there, we'll see that the rampaging effect of the virus is all over Africa. All the dotted red show clearly areas, nations in the continent of Africa that are infected already by this pandemic. This morning, you will not mind me because I work in academic environment and I'm in love with mathematics. By profession, I'm an engineer. And I want to start my presentation proper with some form of mathematics, not rigorous one, but very simple, so that you don't log me off. I want to give us the interdependence of education, health, and livelihood. We talk of a new normal, and that's why mathematics will be relevant here now. Whatever our calling, whatever the career or vocation we have, we cannot do without touching mathematics. Therefore, on that note, go along with me as I take us through this simple arithmetic. If we let E, letter E, stand for education, letter H for health, and letter L for livelihood. By the law of mathematical permutation, there is interdependence among these three elements. And the interdependence will be shown using simple factorial knowledge. If you have the three elements, then their interdependence will follow 3 factorial. In other words, we have 3 times 2 times 1, giving us 6. So this morning I'll be taking us through the 6 different ways that education, health, and livelihood are interdependent. I have education, health, and livelihood, education, livelihood, and health. We have health, education, and livelihood, as well as health, livelihood, and education. Then we have livelihood, education, and health. And finally, livelihood, health, and education. I want to start with the first interaction of education, health, and livelihood. It is commonly said that if education is expensive, one should try ignorance. And of course, that can be a very terrible and serious experiment. Education plays a great role in people's status, either politically, economically, or environmentally. In any nation, in any environment, political stability, economic standing, and environmental exposures contribute to human health. Human wellness will determine opportunities for better livelihood. We can see there the interactive role of education on health and on livelihood. Number 2, the interaction between health, education, livelihood, and health. It is worth taking anywhere in the world that formal and informal education has significant impact on livelihood. For instance, when somebody goes through proper formal education, he will be able to promote his skills. And we know currently in the world, skills determine our employability and our income. Somebody is gainfully employed and has a very good income, has opportunity for a better livelihood. And of course, too, livelihood can influence our geographical location. When somebody has an enviable livelihood, it can determine a better geographical location where he resides to make his living. And of course, too, a better environment will contribute to proper sanitation systems and consequently reflect on the health status of the individual. The question is this: for every one of us, as we hear this morning, what medical facilities or care can you afford in your location? Number 3, the interdependence of health, education, and livelihood. it is highly likely that a healthy man, if and when interested, will pursue formal education to gain knowledge and skills that will subsequently affect his livelihood. On the other hand, poor health will militate against sound education, which may equally lead to loss of livelihood. So we see very clearly that health, education, and livelihood, they contribute together to play a major role among mankind. Interaction between health, livelihood, and education. We are here this morning, and I know this is part of education, exposure to the new normal. We gain experience because we are healthy. If you are not, possibly we'll find it difficult to be here this morning. So a healthy person, if not lazy, and of course, he should not be lazy because laziness is a disease on its own. We'll be able to have open door to opportunities and as well create opportunities for livelihood. Better livelihood is a stepping stone to better education. Interdependence of livelihood, education, and health. Because of the environment where I work, in different parts of the world, universally, in academic environment, we have cases of many students who are fortunate because of the enviable livelihood of their parents or their guardians. And that has given them the opportunity to have better education for their lives. However, there have been cases of abuse of such fortunate opportunities some students have all over the world. Many students have abused the privilege they have through unchecked lifestyles. They expose themselves to illicit activities. A student that has given himself to drug addiction, you can be sure that mentally, psychologically, will be out of health to concentrate effectively to his education. Loss of livelihood, of course, will lead to poverty and loss of economic status with consequent unwholesome impact on standards of formal education. If sponsors, guardians, parents, they are out of job, they don't have reliable livelihood, they will not be able to contribute effectively to the training of their wards. And where there is absence of proper education, then an injunction of the scripture will be in place and fit well that my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. If you don't have knowledge, the proneness to destruction is very high because lack of knowledge is equivalent to ignorance. And ignorance is never an excuse in any society. Interdependence of livelihood, health, and education. We all know, and you agree with me, that better livelihood will promote sound health. And the consequence of sound health will be a way to experience and enjoy a state of freedom from physical and psychological illness. That is why the scripture tells us to again that God has not given us the spirit of fear. Somebody is not having irregular income, is not having a rewardable livelihood, may be subject to the spirit of fear. But God has not given us the spirit of fear. Rather, he has given us the spirit of power, a spirit of love, and the spirit of a sound mind. With a sound mind, we'll be able to pursue sound education. So we see the connect between livelihood, health, and education. I hope you have enjoyed my mathematics on permutation. I'll be going to implications of health challenges and the pandemics on the livelihood all over the world.
Thank you, Prof. Before you go on, sir, can you just change to presentation mode, sir? Just it's showing us your whole screen instead of the presentation mode. Yes, sir.
Great.
I'm very sorry.
No problem, sir. Thank
No,
you, sir. It's now in the right
I
mode.
see it better
Yes,
now.
yes, it's perfect now, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Now, I was going to talk on implications of health and health challenges and the pandemic. The pandemic has affected economic strength of people, and the effect has been directly proportional. We can see that as the health and human toll grow, the economic damage is also already evident, and it represents the largest economic shock the world has ever experienced in decades.
Just click it, it will go.
Let's Sorry, the system is hanging.
No problem, sir. Just take your time, sir. We're with you.
I know. You use the arrow. It's not what. Okay. Have you? Is this one from you? Okay. Yeah. It's all right. It's all right. Go back. 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 No, no, no.
So
Forward. Forward. No, back. No, back. Back.
go to the end of light.
Yes. No, the next one. The next one.
The one behind it. The one behind it. Yeah, that's it. That's it. No. The one behind this one. The one behind this one.
Yes. Okay, because of our time and the short break, permit me to go into the realities we have with us in Africa. Considering the recent report from WHO that the pandemic should be peak in Africa by the end of this month. It therefore means we are far from having breathing space, but we are trusting God for divine intervention. Some of the scary details in Africa are the things I want to show us now. Just like the rest of the world, there's a continued loss of jobs in millions in Africa. You know, before the pandemic, we have the problem of poverty. So it has now become a double tragedy for Africans. Investments are shrinking, and the body of debt services is outgrowing the entire budgetary allocations for any nation in Africa. We witness already the closure of schools, and economic activities and sources of livelihood have also continued to reduce. Next. In Nigeria in particular, the IDR for the government has shrunk very badly, and we all know, we read the news, on the net, on the television, that our oil prices are in terrible figures. Schools are already shut down across the continent, and online classes are mostly scanty because of poor internet infrastructure across African countries. The already fragile healthcare of African countries is now overstretched, and the only hope we have is that a vaccine will be produced to prevent further occurrence of the pandemic. Currently in Africa, we have over 400,000 confirmed cases, over 10,000 death cases, and we have another over 200,000 active cases, where we have only about 192,600 discharged cases. For Africa, the record shows that we have the highest in South Africa. Out of the over 400,000 we have, in South Africa alone, we have a record of about 151,209 cases. Next. In Africa, coronavirus has not only brought deaths in its wake, but unfortunately, it has also completely changed the way we work, the way we live, and the way we socialize as a people. That has forced us in Africa out of our complacency, and now we rise to the reality of the new normal. We can see instances of a new normal there. This is like self-imprisonment, because people must maintain social distancing. And that is what is going all over the world. And in Africa, we are not left out of it. Problems are there, but then are we going to let the problem destroy us as a continent or as a nation in Africa or in Nigeria? No. Definitely, there are fights against the pandemic. And I want to take us through the unified fight against the pandemic. As expected, every country should have measures in place to prepare for the possibilities of the invasion. as early as January, the problem has been growing worse from month to month. But we know we fight against it, we will overcome it. Next. The approach to fighting COVID-19 is tripartite. One, we must be prepared. Number two, with the challenges that the pandemic has created, we must learn to cope. And of course, too, if there are people who are infected, we look forward to their recovery. This is a kind of cyclic matter. Be prepared, learn to cope, and then pray to survive. In some parts of the countries of Africa, lessons learned in fighting Ebola has contributed to challenges and preparedness to fight the coronavirus. Although for coronavirus, the degree is higher, and then the infection appears to play some form of games as if it is diabolical, but it will be conquered. We need to create and strengthen support from all areas of endeavor to ensure that from time to time, we have information that will help us to track the necessary data so that we'll be able to use the data to forewarn people and then get them prepared against the pandemic. We can see from there, that's a boot center to monitor and track data in a particular country. And I know Nigeria is doing something already. Courtesy of WHO, we have this project here in the Democratic Republic of Congo. You can see what is prepared for people there, a mechanical way of fighting against the COVID attack. People need to wash their hands using running water and soap. That's what WHO has contributed as part of international assistance to African countries. Next. Yes. To help the nationals in our own nation particularly, the federal government has been encouraging people through local media houses to drive effective information and data sharing about the virus. From time to time, every program will show us how to wash our hands, how to use tissue in case somebody wants to cough, or you cough to your elbow, and then avoid the touching of your face. We see it all over and over as assistance to guide people against infection of the pandemic. Next. The fight will have been lost before it starts if individuals failed to take responsibilities. We can see somebody in barbing saloon, the barber, and then the client, they need to prepare themselves against possible attack or spread of the virus. So we have personal responsibilities to fight against the pandemic. We see in Nigeria, the data we have now shows that since the occurrence of the pandemic, the graph has not gone down. You can see it grows in Nigeria as it also grows globally in the world. Now, we have some challenges that the new normal has presented to us for us to consider. This tells us about the uncertainties of post-COVID-19 invasion. There are fears everywhere, but we must learn to cope with whatever challenge that the pandemic has brought into the world. Number one, enormously painful and destructive change in the way we do things have started already. And these are the things we must cope with. There are now demands for new skills and new ways of doing things, while some of the existing ones have become obsolete. A few months ago, what we are doing this morning, we probably have traveled distances to attend a conference, to take this type of lecture. But the invasion of the coronavirus has taught the world better skills and better ways of handling issues. There's also the fear of continuous loss of jobs. It has started already, but the fear is there that it will continue. And if it continues, of course, remember the permutation done on education, health, and livelihood. If people lose their jobs, which affects their livelihood, other areas will suffer because there is interdependence of the three. You can't take one in isolation. We must now emphasize more on contactless interface for our formal and social interactions. These are some of the realities of the uncertainties that are associated with the invasion. We can see innovation there. People are becoming creative. Instead of having contact with, you have like a mother there that needs to dress up a child. See the way it is done, a kind of creativity. It is part of the new normal that has come with the invasion. Of course, too, part of the uncertainties associated with the invasion is increment in poverty rate across Africa. Before the pandemic, we were already experiencing unimaginable poverty. And now it's a double tragedy that rate will now increase. Many nations also are expected to suffer steep, or if not stiffer, economic crunch after the pandemic. There is the general fear that post-pandemic will lead to increase in crimes and frauds. It has started already. Sometimes ago, I watched a video clip. Some people provided nose mask that already treated in a dangerous way, that the moment you use it, you just slip off. So somebody sold it to some commuters, and immediately they put it on, they all slept off, and they were robbed in the vehicle in an attempt to provide solution to COVID-19 pandemic. Of course, too, in the global world, particularly in nations that are technologically developed, there's going to be the acceleration of the use of artificial intelligence to replace human jobs. So that will increase Of course, the loss of job for many people, and consequently, loss of their livelihood. The behavioral pattern and interaction of human will also change. There will be new measures and innovation to make education safer and more efficient, because that's the reason for this type of lecture we're having this morning. So that will lead us to the unique approaches to striking the balance. There's no doubt the challenge has led people to think out of the box so that they don't stay and die for no reason when they are supposed to be active, they are supposed to be alive, they are supposed to make living and achieve better in life. Of course, too, and naturally, the so-called virus cannot be seen by the naked eyes. So why the fear? Why are we intimidated? Why can't we move out and do our normal life in the new normal environment? We are moving ahead, and I want to show us approaches to strike the balance between education, economy, and livelihood. Number one, there must be huge overhauling of the healthcare system, particularly in Nigeria, and of course, in other African countries. Also, too, there should be constant and regular checks with prompt reports of illness to curtail the spread of the pandemic. Wherever checks are done and there is suspicion of infection, the report must be prompt. The report must be immediate. There must be emergency centers provided across the states, especially now that the lockdown is eased, so that people can go to their businesses and offices. But unfortunately, no program yet to return to schools in our country. There should be urgent and deliberate investment now in education, especially across Africa. Our governments need to rework, need to repackage their budgetary system and concentrate heavily on making sound education a reality. Our various institutions and schools will need to implement measures to ease the payment of school fees and other bills after they have resumed. That will limit contact with people. You don't need to go to bank to go and queue up somewhere, and then surfaces you don't need to touch, you'll be withdrawn from such. If we have other platforms, electronic platforms whereby transfers are made. Of course, too, we want to thank God in Nigeria that we're already keying into the new realities of having IT-driven classes instead of coming together face-to-face lectures. There are many universities in Nigeria where we have a classroom for 50 people and maybe about 200 or thereabout we gather there to take lectures. We have had instances in some universities, students will sit very close to the blackboard or chalkboard or whatever means that is being used in the university system because they don't have space within the classroom. The current challenge we have now will affect our institutions to adjust their budgets and give priorities to the new realities. We must plan for adequate spacing, and of course, increase our activities with virtual interactions. Of course, it's a necessity to have testing and emergency centers in our institutions in case of any suspected cases in our environment. Sorry, please, there is a no, this one doesn't work like that. You didn't charge it. No, it's charged. Let me put on the video. Can you talk to them?
They are here now.
Please, can you assist us and share from there, from where I stopped?
Okay, just a minute.
We're having a little hiccup here.
Stop sharing for your own end.
Okay, to start from here?
Yes.
Okay, we are back, please. We are back. Go to where I stopped. No, I've passed this place long.
Participant, let's bear with us. It will be resolved shortly.
Yes.
Prof, your own screen is the one being shown, not your PS screen, sir. Can
Yes,
your PA, can you stop
yes,
stop projection on your own screen?
We are working on it. We'll get
Thank you,
over
sir.
it.
Thank you, sir.
Kindly stay tuned. We are getting it resolved.
It's not showing on my system.
Let me share from my own end. Then.
Okay. You know where I stopped?
We'll get.
Okay. You scroll there. When you get there, we know. Oh, yes. Yeah. So we are back.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone, for your patience.
Are we there?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Thank
you are
you
at the
very
right
much.
place, sir.
Back to approaches to strike the balance. I was explaining to us that our institutions will need to compulsorily open testing and emergency centers, while government should create special funds for unemployment benefits to reduce the impacts. Doing that, we cut down the rate of frauds and crimes in our nation. There should be policies to drive employee retention as a priority across the world. There should be promotion of social assistance benefits. There should be financial support and tax relief to encourage businesses and individuals. When somebody is out of job, or somebody, because of illness or the challenge, cannot afford a profitable income, why do we still need to heavily tax him or her? So government should put in place a tax relief to encourage businesses and the nationals in African countries. We must improve infrastructure to support more of virtual interactions. And of course, too, there should be quality and efficient information dissemination. While there should be very strict monitoring to drive compliance, because some of the statistics we have now, they are very doubtful. And we have had cases of the pandemic being politicized, and people talk one or the other. People are not sincere with data. And we don't need to play with the life of people. We must be very strict in the dissemination of information that we give to people. Our media houses must assist us and rely majorly on information that is appropriate and correct. We have had challenges and disturbances. I want to, at this point, conclude my presentation. Now, as I conclude the presentation, permit me to give the following quotes. Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tunes without the words, and it never stops at all. Keep calm and carry on. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Nothing in life is to be feared. It is only to be understood. Now is the time to understand more so that we may fear less. Life isn't about waiting for the storm to pass. It is about learning how to dance in the rain. Dawn comes after the darkness. The pandemic will be over and life will continue by the grace of God.
Amen.
So what do we do? This is what I call a reassuring remark for us. Number one, don't be afraid. Be afraid to be afraid. Because fear alone can do more damages even than the virus itself. And of course, like I said, the virus is not seen by the naked eyes. Why then do we live in fear? Get busy and start thinking out of the box, because we can overcome anything if we put in enough energy to overcome it. That's why it is said in the scriptures, Paul said, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. When you put up your energy together with the grace of God upon your life, you can overcome whatever you choose to pursue in life. Fortunately for African countries, We are predominantly religious, and it is time now we sit up to pray and trust our God to guide us, to lead us, and especially our leaders, so that they'll be able to make right decisions that will promote progress and safety in our nation. Therefore, we trust in God. We can return to our daily activities and take necessary precautions against COVID-19. It is my pleasure, as I conclude this lecture, to leave us with a promise of God that cannot fail. And I'm taking that one from Jeremiah chapter 33, verse 6, which says, "Behold, look at it, settle down, consider it, I will bring it health." Where you have it there, put yourself there. I will bring you health and cure.
Amen.
God will give you health. He will give you cure in case of infection. And he says, I will cure them.
Amen.
In our nation, we will be cured.
Amen.
And I will reveal unto them the abundance of peace and truth.
Amen.
That is the promise of God. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, God cannot fail. And I want you to go with this promise this morning, that God will give you health.
Amen.
He will give you cure. And he will reveal to you abundance of peace and truth that will affect your education, affect your health, and affect your livelihood.
Amen.
Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you. Please put your hands together for Prof.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. We are really, really blessed today. We got 2 for 1. We got fatherly blessings. We got the blessings and the promises of God that we can hold on to in these uncertain times. And we got knowledge. Thank you. Thank you. Despite the few technical and hiccups here and there, which again is associated with technology, we managed to enjoy every bit of the presentation, sir. Thank you for taking time out of your extremely busy schedule at this time as Vice Chancellor, Anchor University, Lagos, Nigeria, to actually take us through that important topic at a time like this. You started by giving us an update on the COVID-19 situation in the global space, and then you went on to be specific about Africa, and you showed us data to support your position in terms of why Africa might need to step up our games. And then you took us through your mathematical experience as an engineer and a student of mathematics, showing us the factors linking the 3 major components that we're considering today: health, education, and livelihood, in all the 6 permutations. And you showed mathematically that the interdependency of one is directly related to the outcomes of the other 2, and that none of the 3 can actually be said to be stronger than the other, because a sound mind leads to education, or good education, while livelihoods can contribute to affecting both health and education, or the reverse. So thank you, sir. That those interrelation and the mathematical modeling makes absolute sense in the uncertainties that the world is facing today. Then you recommended that we need to have a unified fight against COVID-19, with the individual focusing on what we can do ourselves to prevent, our infection, and then what the institutions can do, how we can go back safely to school, what the policymakers need to consider as the needed support to the institutions, and how we can play less on the uncertainties, especially as the uncertainties have the potential to cause further damage to livelihoods, especially now that countries with the means are seriously considering replacing human workforce with artificial intelligence, which will further reduce unemployment, and unemployment, of course, will consequently lead to lower level of livelihoods, and lower level of livelihoods will naturally lead to lower level of health. So again, the interdependence plays out both on the economic front as well as on the individual household level challenges. And you suggested unique approaches to striking the balance. Those approaches you clearly mapped out here are approaches that hinge on what institutions need to do, from ensuring that they have emergency centers and and testing facilities within the institutions, creating opportunities for blended learning, which we had some yesterday, and improving the opportunities that currently exist and are marginally utilized, and that those things can be scaled up. And you said again in your concluding remarks that our biggest challenge is to be afraid to be afraid, that we need not be afraid at all, because fear in itself is a major detriment to our health. And you said we should think outside of the box, or think without the box at all. We should overcome everything that we put enough energy to overcome. And that you said we are lucky that Africa is a relatively religious entity, and that this is the time for us to also strengthen our resolve to be more prayerful, to be more focused, to renew our energy with the faith that we have in God, and that with God, all things are definitely possible, and that whatever happens, we should be left with that verse in Jeremiah 33, verse 6, that says clearly, behold, I will bring in health and cure, and I will cure them, and I will reveal unto them the abundance of peace and truth. Thank you very much, sir. You have done much more than we would have expected, because you have blessed us in all three dimensions. Thank you, sir. We are really, really, really grateful. God bless you, sir.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. And now I'm going to try to see questions that are waiting for us in the chat room. Please, if you haven't sent in your questions, please send in your questions. We would like to interact further with Prof. So for us to do that, we need you to clear some of these questions. To ask some of the questions. The first one is, thank you very much, sir. I want to ask what the body of vice chancellors will do in view of the increasing deployment of artificial intelligence in advising the government with tinkering with the curriculum to produce graduates well suited and equipped for current realities. What will the body of vice chancellors recommend, basically, on the issue of increased deployment of artificial intelligence compared to number of graduates that are suited for such jobs that may be taken over by AI? Prof, sir.
Thank you very much. Permit me, before I log into answering the questions, let me especially appreciate the African young brains for this privilege to be here today and give my little token, my little contribution that I've just presented. And I know since the program started, I've always joined, except yesterday. I was not there because I needed to meet with our students and parents online too. We had a meeting about the same time this program was held yesterday. So you said it right that I've been very busy, and I'm glad I'm busy. I don't want to be lazy so that I will not be sick. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and welcome back, sir.
All the previous speakers that have spoken in this program, I really enjoyed their contributions, even the ones that I was not able to attend. I believe you will send the e-copy so that I can go along with you.
Very correct,
So
sir.
I want to thank them all for all they have done too. And especially, forgive me, I don't want to be selfish, but it is normal to specially recognize Professor Adeyanju, the Vice Chancellor of Landmark University. I had a
Thank you,
talk
Prof.
at that institution, and he's here. I can see his face.
Thank
And
you.
I'm very person. Prof, you are welcome.
Thank you,
By the
sir.
grace of God, we see again.
Uh,
Now, back to the question you asked. You see, we have new realities with us. And there's no doubt that the vice chancellors of Nigerian universities need to move out to seriously, with all the passion it requires, to challenge the realities we have on ground. And since the challenge came on board, we have been having a series of meetings. The vice chancellors are not sleeping, they are awake. And I want to say on this platform that Nigerian vice chancellors are digital vice chancellors. You can find out from the various institutions. You will know that we are not analog vice chancellors. So we are very, very active. We know what is in vogue, and we are planning and we are ready to carry our institutions along with the development that we meet up the new normal we have now. To do it properly, we will need to revisit our curricula in our various universities and incorporate what is in vogue that will help us to effectively provide sound education without having a negative impact on our health and our livelihood. If we integrate artificial intelligence in our training, of course, I said it may create some loss of jobs, but of course, too, you know that human beings are involved in AI technology. There are people who will task their brains to develop the software, and we will need more people in that field also. There's no doubt about it that the merits are there in the use of artificial intelligence. So training our students, we are developing their skills, we are developing their employability. So I want to assure you that Nigerian universities, vice chancellors, will work hard to ensure that we integrate artificial intelligence program in our curricula.
Thank you very much, Prof. I appreciate that, and I take to heart the fact that you reconfirmed that our vice chancellors are digital vice chancellors and they have moved away from the analog world. We are seeing that in everything that has played out with all the vice chancellors that have engaged us on this platform since the beginning. In fact, most of our professors now, not just the vice chancellors, most of them now are demonstrating very high technical and digital skills. And we are privileged to learn from the very best. So the African Young Brains is encouraging every young African to not stop at all. They should keep going. This is the time where Africa needs to lead the way. There is a new drive now. People are rediscovering Africa for what Africa really, truly is. They know not now that Africa is not the Africa that can go with cap in hand, begging anyone anymore. We need to show what we are made of. We need to show that our resources are not to be plundered. Our resources are to be developed by Africans, for Africa and for the global world. So thank you, Prof. We appreciate that. I want to take the next set of questions. I see here that someone asked a question on the hope of the African child in assessing functional education in what Isiaka Ajayi termed the new abnormal. What is the hope of the poor African child in assessing functional education in this new abnormal? What's your thoughts, sir?
Well, we know that before this challenge, when we had the privilege of attending conferences, workshops, and seminars, there have been series of meetings, development of communiques, that recommendations are always made to the federal government, particularly in Nigeria. But the challenge is how well these recommendations are taken and implemented. For my presentation today, I've added to the data bank of responsibilities that the federal government must take over. If all that they have in data bank from series of recommendations from different conferences, workshops, and call it whatever, if we implement them correctly, there's going to be a kind of normal distribution with respect to effect of education in Nigeria. It's not going to be skewed as we have it now, because only those who have enviable livelihood are able to train their wards in tertiary institutions. But if the government can stretch the allocations properly to education, it will spread across. It may not be uniform, but there will be normal distribution. You know, normal distribution is like a bell. You have extremely low, you have extremely high, and majority will be in the middle. So if in our country, we're able to operate in that form, government can help in that form, education will be accessible even to the extremely poor members of the nation.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I think that succinctly answers the question of Isiaka. Another question is here, sir, that says, thank you for an informative session, sir. Going forward, the education system needs to be overhauled gradually with effective training budget dedicated to new technology for trainers, students, teachers, and lecturers. Artificial intelligence and effective collaboration has now become a necessity. The future is bright in the new world. This is coming from Ugi Erabo. Thank you very much. That's a comment rather than a question. And I think that was, again, the recommendation of Professor while he was delivering the lecture. The next one says, Prof, do you think Nigerian universities are ready for resumption with the current pandemic? The measures you mentioned in your presentation for universities, having test centers and other measures hinged on government. How soon do you think government can provide these measures to facilitate resumption of schools? This is coming from Okafo in the BC, sir.
Well, this is a question that is related to the uncertainties, the fear people are having. And I want to start from where I concluded. Be afraid to be afraid. The institutions, with all we are doing now, we have virtual classrooms all over. We connect our students, even our staff. We hold meetings on virtual platform. Things are moving, but then we cannot rule out face-to-face contact. If part of the recommendations made here today are followed by our institutions and we have sufficient support from the government, I don't think there's need to be afraid to get back to our institutions and continue our educational training. So there is a very high hope. And I've said it this morning too, that when you prepare your mind that you have a reality and the precautions we are supposed to take, we are fully equipped and we don't take chances. We don't abuse the privilege we have. I don't see any reason that universities cannot reopen. But please let me sound this note of warning. In Nigeria, we are too good for taking chances. I'm in Lagos. Occasionally, when I go around, I see people, they don't take the challenge very seriously. Ordinarily, the use of nose mask, you see many people, they don't care. They go to places, you see them crowded, they don't believe the reality of the pandemic. If people are very, very careful and conscious of what they are doing and the precautions that are stated out, we take them religiously. I believe that the schools can reopen and will still operate effectively. And fortunately, the challenge has led us to advance progress and development. So when we get back to our institutions now, learning will be blended mode. We have the regular face me, I face you kind of lectures, and then we can have online equally. I know there are some institutions where this is a little bit a political statement, but there are institutions, they admit more than necessary, more than their facilities can cope with. Such institutions may have challenge on social distancing. We have some other universities, they have they're able to follow the quota based on the facilities they have. For such institutions, there's no problem. At least I know I can speak for Anchor University. If we have to resume tomorrow, I assure you we will cope. We'll be able to maintain social distances, and then, of course, we have some measures already on ground that can help us accommodate and allay the fear of our student community. So what I'm saying is that let us be afraid to be afraid. We must make progress. That is the truth. We can't stay back home doing nothing. There are students who need to graduate this year so that they can join the labor market and display the knowledge they have acquired for 3, 4, or 5 years. We just have to move out and start the new normal. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Finally, I think I have 1 or 2 more. One is the one from Femi Phillips from Akure, and I think I can paraphrase it to mean that how soon are we going to be able to introduce indigenous languages in facilitating learning, which was one of the things that was recommended by KBSC at the opening session, and of course supported by Professor Peter Okebukola. I want to say that the National Policy on Education actually had taken it further to say that children from primary 1 to 3 needs to be taught in the mother tongue of the immediate environment. So if you have a child, even if you are Yoruba and you are living in Kano, your child is supposed to learn Hausa or be taught in Hausa from primary 1 to 3. And if an Hausa person is living in Enugu, for instance, the child is supposed to be taught in Igbo language in the first 3 years. That's the language of the immediate environment, much more than the mother tongue. So it's already something that is in our policy for pre-basic education. And I am sincerely hoping that we will all take it seriously. We're already seeing challenges now that most of us, even if they decide to teach us in indigenous languages at this level, we don't even understand the basics of the indigenous languages. So except we take it up from that pre-primary. I mean, I remember I went to school in the early 70s in primary school, and it was completely abnormal for any one of us to try to speak Yoruba on campus, on school premises, where we're accused of speaking vernacular. And that really affected, some of us, because we now had to start forcing ourselves to speak English even at home. It improved our English, but it badly destroyed, our fundamentals in our own local languages. So we need to find a way around it. It's definitely working in Asia and other countries where these indigenous languages are, the basis of learning, and it's faster for children to learn when the same language is being spoken in their immediate environments, and they actually don't feel like they're really in school, so they are relaxed and they are learning faster. But I hope that we will get there very soon. So I want to please encourage each and every one of us, especially those of us that are young parents now, to encourage our children by speaking our local languages to them at home, teaching them. The fact that they're speaking English in school doesn't mean that when they come back home, we need to continue speaking English to them. Children have that capacity to speak multiple languages when they are young. So if your wife is Igbo, she can speak Igbo to the child. If your husband is Hausa, the child can learn all languages from that lower age. And by the time they get used to it, it even improves their learning in the school system. And finally, I want to thank everyone who has stayed true. I noticed that all our previous speakers that have spoken have also come online to listen to other speakers. This gives me confidence that they are not just interested in coming to contribute as speakers, but they are interested in supporting the African young brains and supporting every African child or every African person that has joined on this platform to learn. It's a different thing when you just come on, deliver your own presentation and you go off. But when you stay through other people's presentation, it's a sign that you are not just interested in delivering what you thought you knew, but you are also interested in learning what others have, what opinions others have. I see Professor Olayanju always online with us in any of the sessions. Professor Adeni Olayanju, Professor Dowu, Professor Francis Ibikunle, always logging in. Professor Babatunde in Ibadan, in Abeokuta, always online with us. And this Professor Francis Ibikunle, thank you very much, sir. We appreciate you. Thank you for all the contributions that you put in. I can't really quantify them as we appreciate them. Professor Babatunde Adeomi, also thank you, sir. You're always providing guidance, providing a support, always writing us behind the scene on the things that we need to improve on, and you're always supporting us. We really appreciate all of you. We cannot do this without your support, but we want to please encourage you all. The closing session is at 4:30 p.m. this afternoon. It promises to be lots of fun. I cannot just imagine how much that is going to change the way we're going forward. We are finally going to hear on the sensitization of African students on digital transformation of education in a new normal. And I cannot wait to get the views of Professor Olayanju on that. Professor Olayanju is the Vice Chancellor, Landmark University of Muaron, Kwara State. He's been with us all the days of this summit from the opening session to this moment. Thank you very much, Prof. We appreciate you. We can't wait, to learn from you this afternoon. We know that it promises to be really explosive, and we know you are ready. I can see that you have gone jogging already this morning. So we enter the same mode with you, sir. We'll be here promptly at 4:30 so that we can tap from that fountain of knowledge, sir. Thank you so much for everything that you have done. At this point, I would like to thank all of you that have tuned in, especially those that are joining us on Facebook. Please, joining us live on YouTube. Thank you very much. This afternoon promises to be a lot of fun. Do not be afraid. That's what Prof has told us. So in fact, he said it in a different way. He said, be afraid to be afraid. So that should be the new normal. Now, let's be afraid to be afraid. It's not going to be business as usual. And we know that things are, the new normal is, the abnormal is the new normal. But whether we like it or not, that's where the world has engaged in. Economies are not going to be the same. Things are going to definitely begin to show up in manners that we have not seen in decades. No one has passed through this chat before, so be proud that you are part of this, because no generation alive has ever gone through what the world is going through at the moment. So it's a proud moment. It's a time we are all making history, and it's better for us to participate and be excited about the opportunity rather than being afraid about with the challenges. Thank you. And at this point, I'd like to return control to Femi Olayanju, the convener of the African Young Brains and the guy whose social investment is paying off for all of us. Thank you for using your social capital in this very, very important and educative way. All the best.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Can we all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, we
Yes,
can.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thanks a million to everyone. And I would say thanks be unto our God. God is great, God is good, God is merciful. I appreciate Professor of Afolayan for the wonderful presentation. Prof, God will bless you. God will bless you. I said God will bless you. I'm very, very grateful because Professor Afolayan had given us. Hello, can you hear me?
Can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
I said Professor Afolayan and the Anchor University had given us approval to host live events at Anchor University before this pandemic. It's wonderful that we can trace the origin of this summit to Anchor University somehow. And I appreciate you, Prof, for that approval, that we can host African young people in your campus. And we are going to have it. The pandemic will end. We are coming live to Anchor University. The approval letter is with me, and I appreciate you. The whole Africa will invite all universities, we write all African universities to nominate at least five or 10, depending on capacity. If we are going to do it in such a way that all African universities will be invited to Anchor University. And I can see Professor Lion also say, Femi, you cannot forget me. I'd already given you approval. So we are also having approval of Professor Lion that Landmark University is going to host us. You can see he's clapping. It's not that I'm just saying, he's clapping already. And all of you that you are students, you are young, and you are currently watching us live on YouTube, or probably you are in the summit room, please get prepared. Get prepared. In fact, it's going to be highly, highly explosive. And I know that you will see face-to-face Soji Adeniyi, my mentor, the moderators of this event. And it's not that I'm just talking, it's God. And you will find that when you see Mr. Soji Adeniyi, I'm telling you, you are seeing the face of United Nations. So when you are talking of United Nations globally, they know him, and they will be able to have impact on our young one. So I appreciate Professor Joseph Afolayan for the presentation. And I appreciate Professor Bayo Okwade. He's still with us. As I'm speaking with you, Professor Bayo Okwade from UK is with us here. And I appreciate Professor Adewumi Babatunde. I call him BA. And we are BA children. So I also thank so much his wife. His wife is also in the room, and I thank so much Professor Ibikunle. Thank you so much. There are other professors that are here. I thank you so much, and I also appreciate the fact that Professor Afolayan mentioned God's factor in his presentation. Without God, we cannot do anything. And at this time, we need to trust God, we need to believe God, and everything will be normal. So for collaboration, we are willing to collaborate with everyone. And at the end of the day, the impact of what God has used you and used me, or is using you, or using me to do, will be felt everywhere. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. And never forget, without God, we can't do anything. Thank you. God bless you. I appreciate you all. Join us also in the evening, 4:30, and it will be wonderful. I appreciate my team, the media team, the secretariat of African Young Brain. I appreciate you a lot. You are putting a lot of effort. God will reward you. God will bless you. We have to go a long way to go, and I'm sure God will back us up. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you very much.
God bless you too. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Kwade, thank you, sir.
Thank you. God bless.
So
Bye. Thank you, Professor Folayan. I appreciate the lecture. Thank you, Professor Francis. Thank you, moderator. I appreciate you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
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 Thank you, everyone. Bye.
See you in the afternoon.
Okay, we'll be there.
Sir.
Please.
Yeah, we're going to be there.
Okay. All right.
Great. So I want to thank all of you for your support. Just, I don't know what happened to my system.
No, the devil is a liar. The 3 factorial. Oh my, oh my. Oh my, oh my. Secretary, as I must have the e-copy of that presentation.
You will have everything. All participants will have everything.
I'm boiling now. I'm boiling. Prof has made engineering approach.
That will be wonderful.
Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah.
Kindly help us share on the platform, on other platforms, so that people will come.
We are doing that already.
All the students, the time for students to join us, we will make it snappy, and then so that they can hear the need for them to get set, get ready, re-strategize on how they will actually participate in as the 5 chancellors and all the leaders are helping, so they will also be part of this move. Please, let's sensitize the students. God bless you all.